Have you ever wondered, why are we here? What binds the human soul to the earth? In today's video, we will uncover a shocking secret about the origins of the world, a truth that has been forbidden by the church for centuries. This is not just a story about God, but one of control and unseen conspiracies that restrain our souls. Subscribe to the channel so you don't miss shocking mysteries and esoteric knowledge that you need to awaken. From the moment the soul enters this world, it loses awareness of its true self and origins, as if silently stolen away. This is not just a phenomenon discussed in philosophy, but a profound reality that influences how humans perceive themselves and their purpose in existence. According to the ancient text on the origin of the world, this obscurity is no coincidence but a sophisticated design by the Demiurge, a flawed and ambitious god believed to have created the material world. As an architect of the finite realm, the Demiurge has constructed a world as a trap where souls are imprisoned in ignorance and submission, distanced from true knowledge. Far from being a benevolent creator, the Demiurge resembles a hidden warden who seeks to conceal the truth about the soul's origins, making the journey to liberation a formidable challenge. The Demiurge, the thief of the universe, not only created the material world to imprison souls, but also erased sacred memories and stole awareness of our divine self, replacing it with fear and relentless desires directed toward the physical realm. According to Gnosticism, when a soul enters this world, it loses the gnosis, profound knowledge of the divine realm it once belonged to. Let me remind you that gnosis originates from the Greek word meaning knowledge or understanding. However, in the context of Gnostic philosophy, gnosis is not mere conventional knowledge, but a profound, direct understanding of divinity, universal truth, or the sacred nature of reality. This type of knowledge transcends ordinary logic or reasoning, relying on personal experience, often through enlightenment, inner discovery, or spiritual connection with the divine source of the soul. In Gnosticism, gnosis is seen as the key to liberating the soul from the material world, which is regarded as being estranged from divine essence. Without gnosis, humans are lost souls endlessly searching to fill an invisible void they cannot comprehend. Everything we tirelessly pursue, from success to fame, is merely an illusion, trapping the soul in an endless cycle of seeking meaning from things that never truly satisfy. Gnostics pose the question, why is satisfaction always fleeting? Why, even after achieving our goals, do we still feel an undefined emptiness within? This arises from the nature of the soul, which longs for higher knowledge that has been hidden for so long. Even more troubling, the Demiurge gave us physical bodies, a sophisticated but cunning design, to anchor the soul to endless sensations and needs: hunger, thirst, pain, and desire. These invisible chains constantly pull us back to the physical rather than enlightenment, easily distracting us from our sacred origin. In reality, how much of our lives is truly spent on spiritual growth, when most of it is consumed by bodily demands? Gnostics believe that the body is no coincidence. It is a tool designed to keep us detached from our divine source. However, though this view may seem grim, Gnosticism is not entirely hopeless. They believe there is a way out, gnosis, inner knowledge. This is not knowledge derived from books or mystical teachers, nor is it found in some hidden ancient manuscript. Gnosis is the direct awakening to the sacred truth that has been obscured, a recollection, a profound realization of the self, surpassing all illusions and escaping the manipulation of the Demiurge. In Gnostic thought, gnosis is the path to liberation, which has been suppressed for centuries. Gnostic texts like On the Origin of the World were labeled as heretical and excluded from mainstream doctrine because they described the material world as a prison for the soul, with the body as its chains. Such knowledge threatens the power of forces that benefit from keeping humanity in darkness and ignorance. Gnostic texts offer a fresh perspective on God, humanity, and the purpose of the soul, potentially transforming the way people perceive the world. If these viewpoints were accepted, they would undermine the power of religious institutions that sustain human dependence on dogma and rituals. Rather than being the product of a perfect divine being, the material world is believed to have been created by the Demiurge to separate the soul from truth. If this knowledge were made public, the entire salvation system of the churches might collapse. According to Gnostic texts, each individual has the ability to connect directly with the divine realm through inner knowledge, or gnosis. This poses a significant threat to religious organizations that rely on persuading people that salvation must be achieved through submission and intermediaries. To maintain power, churches not only ignored but actively hunted and destroyed these texts, branding their followers as heretics. This was a deliberate strategy. By monopolizing what is considered sacred, the Church created a singular narrative where an almighty God reigns supreme, and humanity must submit. Any worldview suggesting divine independence or humanity's potential awakening outside religious systems was eradicated. The suppression of Gnostic texts and communities was not coincidental, but a strategic move to monopolize spiritual truth. If people believed salvation could only come from an external authority, they would live in fear and absolute loyalty, easily subjected to total control. This is not merely a tale of ancient texts and theology. It is fundamentally a story of power. These forbidden ideas were not suppressed because they were false, but because they were dangerous, encouraging self-empowerment and affirming that divinity is an inherent right of all people, not a privilege of religious leaders. We will delve into the concept of the divine trap, a challenging perspective on this world. According to Gnostic texts, the material world is not a paradise, but a prison, designed by the Demiurge to keep souls trapped in the cycle of birth, death, and rebirth, an endless loop that prevents us from breaking free and realizing our divine essence. The things we tirelessly pursue, wealth, relationships, meaning, are distractions deliberately created to bind us and make our souls forget their captivity. This is not a cage of iron, but a constant struggle between the body and its needs like hunger, pain, and pleasure, which keep us attached to the material world. In this endless cycle, we are programmed to seek fulfillment in a world that can never fully satisfy. According to the Gnostics, this is a sophisticated deception, leading the soul astray and disconnecting it from the divine spark within. Every element, from bodily needs to societal structures, contributes to this system, reinforcing the belief that satisfaction is always out of reach. Only by recognizing our true nature can we escape this trap. In Gnostic thought, the Demiurge is not seen as a benevolent god, but as a flawed entity driven by ego, a lust for power and control. Rather than an omniscient creator, the Demiurge is a deceitful force demanding worship to bind souls to the material world, obstructing enlightenment and true freedom. The Gnostics argue that the Demiurge is powerful enough to create the material universe, but lacks the compassion and wisdom to guide it toward a better purpose. This makes it arrogant, blind, and utterly convinced of its role as the sole creator. The Demiurge does not act alone. It is supported by the Archons, cosmic officials who sustain and operate this system, preserving the material order without aiming to enlighten humanity. These Archons thrive on chaos, fear, and confusion, ensuring that souls remain unaware of their divine nature, perpetuating spiritual enslavement within the cycle of birth, death, and rebirth. The Demiurge rules through limitations in perception, creating the illusion that the material world is the only reality. By combining religious doctrines, social conditioning, and daily distractions, it ensures that people rarely question the nature of reality. From birth, we are led to believe that material success and survival are the highest goals, gradually constructing a spiritual prison that keeps us confined to a limited world where the soul is never given the chance to realize its divinity and freedom beyond all material conditions. In Gnostic philosophy, the Demiurge is not the true creator, but an impostor who crafts a limited reality and maintains control through blind obedience. This is considered the ultimate betrayal, as humanity is deceived into worshiping the builder of its own spiritual prison. This realization encourages awakening, helping one understand that freedom comes from breaking the constraints imposed by the Demiurge. Gnostics believe that the material world was designed to block humanity from accessing deeper truths. Everyday experiences, from desires and ambitions to joy and pain, serve as veils, keeping us trapped in the cycle of shallow pursuits. Awakening is only achieved when we recognize that the visible world is merely a surface, and truth belongs to a higher reality, unbound by fleeting illusions. In Gnostic texts, the illusions created by the Demiurge and the Archons are described as a sophisticated facade, confining us within a spiritual prison. From physical sensations to desires and fears, we are locked into material experiences, hindering our ability to question our divine origins. tied to names, status, family, and culture from birth. We develop egos based on external factors, easily drawn into the cycle of fame, wealth, and social validation. This attachment prevents us from looking inward, where our true essence lies. This is the trap set by the demiurge. As we seek happiness and worth from the outside world, each achievement leads to another desire, pulling us further away from our true selves. According to Gnostics, suffering is not a spiritual test, but a tool to keep us ensnared in the cycle of birth, death, and rebirth, preventing us from reaching the divine light within. Each step forward only deepens our dependence on the temporary, while the truth lies in the eternal, free essence within us. Suffering is embedded within the material illusion, keeping us preoccupied with external problems and disconnected from higher truths. Trapped in this system, instead of seeing suffering as a call to awaken, we spiral into negativity, identifying with our pain and forgetting our divine nature. Gnostics argue this is the demiurge's clever strategy. Suffering is not an absolute reality, but a tool to bind the soul to the cycle of birth, death, and rebirth. Suffering is not merely a personal feeling. It is part of a control system employed by the archons and the demiurge to manipulate the mind. Negative emotions such as fear and ambition are implanted in our psyche, creating chaos and distancing us from our true potential. Only by realizing that suffering is a product of this illusory reality can we pursue inner awakening instead of seeking liberation through temporary means. When dominated by anxiety and material desires, we are trapped in temporary needs that hinder spiritual awakening. Gnostics believe that to escape the illusion of the demiurge and the archons, we must practice self-reflection and seek gnosis, knowledge of oneself, through intuition and personal experience, thereby connecting with the divine spark within. The archons, in Gnostic thought, are not tangible beings but invisible forces that control the mind and emotions, sustaining the illusion of the demiurge. They manipulate us through fear, ambition, and insecurity, distracting humanity with material concerns and attachments to societal, familial, and cultural identities. As law enforcers, the archons keep us under control, preventing us from recognizing our true essence. To escape this bondage, we must awaken from the illusion, transcend temporary definitions, and rediscover the divinity within. The archons not only uphold material order, but also manipulate human psychology and emotions through social norms and deeply ingrained psychological triggers. By stirring conflict, insatiable desires, and fear, they ensure we constantly seek external satisfaction instead of awakening internally. In this system, the archons operate at every level, relentlessly influencing human behavior and thoughts, keeping us trapped in the cycle of birth and death and blocking awareness of our divine nature. Negative emotions, created and sustained by them, provide energy for the archons, enhancing their power. They use media and social conflicts to fuel tension and suffering, immersing us in a socially fragmented environment. The more we suffer, the more dependent we become on possessions, status, and social validation, believing these can bring peace. However, Gnostics encourage us to transform this negative energy. By gaining awareness and awakening, we can free ourselves from this vicious cycle, expand our consciousness, and break free from the control of the archons to achieve deeper unity. The archons exploit energy from our negative emotions, turning personal reactions into resources to sustain the cycle of suffering and distraction. Their system infiltrates areas such as society, culture, and politics, as well as powerful institutions like governments and religions, where rewards and punishments enforce obedience and control. These structures, from a Gnostic perspective, do not aim to foster unity, but instead perpetuate fear, keeping humanity disconnected from its inner freedom. While this description may seem as grim as a fictional dystopia, it reflects a social reality where we are consumed by materialism, entertainment, and competition. The influence of the archons is no longer a far-fetched conspiracy, but a palpable presence within systems of power. Their sophistication lies in programming us to pursue superficial goals and values rather than imposing them outright, making self-reflection on the true essence seem unattainable. This system becomes so normalized and accepted that few realize all values and beliefs have been shaped to maintain dependence. The archons are seen as invisible controllers, creating a mental labyrinth that keeps humans chasing illusions. From a Gnostic perspective, breaking this cycle to recognize one's divine essence is our ultimate goal. They believe that gnosis, true knowledge, is the only way to weaken the power of the archons. Gnosis is not just theoretical knowledge, but a profound awareness that transcends language and arises from self-realization. Gnosis is the ability to see through illusions, like waking up from a dream, where the material world and identity fade, giving way to a higher spiritual reality. Gnostics call this moment recollection, when the soul recognizes the divine spark hidden beneath the world's noise. Although there is no fixed path to attain gnosis, some experience it through contemplation, while others through transformative experiences. Because gnosis depends on no institution or intermediary, it poses a threat to systems of control. This liberating knowledge frees people from reliance on external factors. Gnostic texts encourage meditation, self-reflection, and questioning reality to achieve awakening, peeling away the layers of illusion imposed by society. Unlike traditional religions, Gnosticism focuses on breaking mental barriers and freeing humanity from the prison of the mind created by the archons. Challenging all traditional beliefs, including the concept of good and evil, is essential to them. One of their most important symbols is the divine spark within each individual, directly connected to the divine source and indestructible. Though obscured by the illusions of the material world, this spark can only shine when one turns inward and recognizes their divine essence. Achieving gnosis, true self-knowledge, frees us from the control of the archons and the demiurge, beginning a journey of discovery and liberation. Gnosis is not external knowledge, but an inner understanding, a personal journey requiring self-awareness. Gnostics argue that this awakening does not demand rejecting the material world, but seeing its transient nature. They envision a world where everyone recognizes the illusions created by the demiurge and understands their divine essence. This collective awakening would dismantle the archon's power and create a new reality based on truth rather than lies. The journey to seek gnosis is a spiritual revolution, resisting systems that divide and limit awareness. It enables us to seek answers within, realize freedom, and connect more deeply with the universe, discovering that the answers lie within us, waiting to be illuminated. With these reflections, we conclude our exploration of Gnosticism and the transformative power of gnosis. Thank you for joining me in exploring this profound and challenging worldview, daring to confront questions we've been taught to ignore. Always remember, knowledge, especially self-knowledge, is the key to unlocking true freedom. So never stop questioning, never stop seeking, and perhaps you'll begin to see the world in an entirely new way. Thank you again for sharing this journey with me. I hope to meet you again in future explorations, where we will continue to uncover untold mysteries.